Hi guys, it's Izzy, and if there's one thing you guys should know about me, it's that I love a good old conspiracy theory, and I thought I had heard about every single theory under the sun until I dived into this little spiral on the internet, and it's about whether or not Australia is real. So in my videos, I always make sure that I look at both sides of the argument, and then in the end I come up with a conclusion as to whether or not I believe in the conspiracy theory myself. I always look at all the evidence, weigh them up both equally, don't let my opinions sway the research that I'm actually doing. In all my previous videos, I've never come up with a definite conclusion as to whether or not I believe in the conspiracy theory or not. This one, on the other hand, I feel like I've come up with a conclusion, so stay to the end to make sure you find out what I believe and whether or not I think that Australia is real. No, this one really cracked me up. So basically, let's have a look at all the arguments for and against Australia being real. I actually did like an embarrassing amount of research on this, but I managed to delete the file. But don't worry, this one has been such an intriguing one to me. It's really stuck in my mind, so I think that I can still remember all the facts for and against Australia being real. So let's dive into the video. When I was researching this as well, I really wanted an explanation as to why people don't think that Australia exists. And I think that I've come up with it. So a lot of videos that I've seen on this topic have just been like, Australia isn't real or Australia is real. But from my knowledge, no one's actually come up with a valid explanation as to why people even think that it's not real in the first place. So I'm going to dive into that one. I think I've sussed this conspiracy theory. So from my knowledge, the theory that Australia isn't real has been circling the internet for quite a while, but it actually went viral with this lovely little Facebook post from Shelley from Shelley. So she says, Australia is not real. It is a hoax, made for us to believe that Britain moved over their criminals to some place. In reality, these criminals were loaded off the ships into the waters, drowning before they could ever see land again. It's a cover-up for one of the greatest mass murders in history, made by one of the most prominent empires. So I want to dive into that little theory there before we go further into the Facebook post. Yeah, that is true. Britain did actually send over its criminals to Australia. Sorry, Australia. But these were just like criminals for like petty crimes and stuff like that. So yeah, they apparently were just like sent over to Australia in the 17 and 1800s. Like, and for a split second, if you like look at it, you can see where Shelley's coming from. Hear me out here. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, the way that like the British government or powers in charge could cover up a giant mass execution in the 1700s would definitely be like, oh no, we just loaded them onto a giant ship and just sent that ship over to Australia. I swear, like, that's what we've done with all the criminals. Like, that would sound like a legit cover-up. Like, in the 1700s, like, not many people travelled to Australia to see whether the people would actually, like, you know, arrive in Australia. It does sound like a good cover-up. Like, oh, you never saw these people again because we sent them over to Australia. Shame you can't check to see whether that's true or not. Hi, Mum. Hi. Guess what I'm filming right now? I'm filming a conspiracy theory. Guess what it's on? And I've researched it loads to find out the answer. It's a conspiracy theory about whether or not Australia is real.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, someone came up with a Facebook post saying Australia's not real. It's a giant hoax that the British invented. Yeah, because we sent over all our criminals to Australia, but they never actually arrived. It was just the government covering up a mass murder. So basically, I researched this, and here's some evidence against that. Basically, I found a long list of names of people that did actually make an impact in Australian history after being sent over there. So chances are they actually did arrive there. My favourite person of which was Henry Cable. I just thought I'd include this in the video. He was the first person in Australian history to ever file a lawsuit. Imagine that. You get sent over to a new country and you're like, I'm suing you, and everyone's like, what the hell is that? And you're like, oh, you're going to be in a lot of debt after this, just watch this. So yeah, chances are that the British criminals did actually arrive in Australia because there's like proof of them actually arriving there. Anyway, good old Shelley in her Facebook post goes on to further say, Australia does not exist. All the things you call proof are actually fabricated lies and documents made by the leading governments of the world. Your Australian friends, we know a few Australians, I've met a few Australians.
Yeah.
they're actually all actors and computer-generated personas.
No,
Yeah.
like the Truman Show.
Like the Truman Show.
What if everyone you knew was pretending?
Hi, honey. Look what I got at the checkout. Dishwasher safe.
That's amazing.
What if your world was make-believe?
Cue the sun.
So I've looked into quite a few other arguments as to why people, and explanations as to how Australia cannot be real if people think they're Australian and stuff like that. So the argument goes as the following. Australia is just a money-making business, so you fly over to Australia, you get to tour around the little desert and everything, and everyone just says, oh, this is Australia, when in fact they're actually just islands nearby. So if you think you're Australian, you're not, you just live in a nearby island, because yeah, it's all a giant hoax. And my theory to that is, what would be the point of pretending? Do you know what I mean? Like, say Australia is this, and then people aren't flying them over to here, they're just flying them to another island, and then they're just pretending that that little island is Australia when in fact it's this one. Like, surely wouldn't that island just be Australia then? If everyone on that island thinks they're Australian, acts Australian, has an Australian accent, do you know what I mean? Like, what would be the point of covering up saying that it's actually that island and pretending that that island is this island? Do you, so I was tracing down where this theory actually all came about, and I sort of traced it back to like one specific YouTuber called Rag Reynolds, and basically he's made a lot of videos about Australia being fake, where he just sort of stands in front of the camera and says Australia is fake, and if you don't believe me, you're wrong. Like, wake up, Australia is fake. That seems to be his like running argument. There's one video of his that I've not seen in its entirety, so let's have a look to see what his argument is like fully, like, or whether he's actually got an argument.
It's nonsense to think that Australia could be a real place. Have you ever heard of anywhere else with so many deadly animals and strange looking different things that are nowhere else in the world? They have spiders bigger than birds.
Yeah, basically you don't need to watch a lot of his videos to know that he's just winding you up. Like, literally, I refuse to believe that someone doesn't believe in Australia. Like, I know there's a lot of conspiracies out there, but this whole theory, I'm sorry, it's got to be a wind up. That is my conclusion. Like, no one believes that Australia doesn't exist. So I did a little further digging, and I found out that Australia is not the only sort of country that people don't believe in. This theory goes back quite a while. So other popular candidates of countries that don't exist also include Finland, and the entire continent of North America supposedly does not exist. So I don't laugh, it's serious. My research has found this out. So I've actually traced it back to the first case of this ever happening, like a load of people claiming that a place doesn't exist, and that's when I came up, well, I didn't come up with it, I discovered the Bielefeld conspiracy. No? You lived in Germany?
Bielefeld, yeah.
Bielefeld, have you heard of it?
Lived there, no.
You have lived in Germany?
Yeah, but not in Bielefeld.
Yeah, not in Bielefeld. That is where this conspiracy actually goes. So, the conspiracy theory is based on 3 questions. 1, do you know anyone from Bielefeld?
Personally?
Yeah. Personally, have you ever met anyone from Bielefeld?
Met somebody who moved there, I think.
Wow. Okay, that's an interesting one. That one kind of goes against the conspiracy. But have you ever been to Bielefeld?
No.
Do you know anyone that's kind of what you answered, but...
I'm sure I know people who have been to Bielefeld.
You sure you have? I think I traced it back to a bunch of students in the 90s that had basically came up with this theory that it's most likely that you answer no to all those 3 questions, that not many people, like, people have heard of Bielefeld, but people don't normally, like, it's not a place that you go to.
Satire.
Yeah, no, it's a place that you don't normally go to, do you know what I mean? You never plan a holiday to Bielefeld, so everyone's heard of it. But a load of students basically started this as a hoax. Oh yeah, I finished filming, but I just remembered that I forgot to say something. Basically, this whole Bielefeld conspiracy theory, for a fact, was started as a joke by some students. Like, that is like a fact. Like, there's no one out there that doesn't believe in Bielefeld. Like, that was started as an internet hoax. Oh no, not an internet hoax, it was in the 90s. It was started as a hoax somewhere, but yeah, that's for a fact a joke.
Satire.
Satire.
German sense of.
It's a classic German sense of humour, that. So yeah, no, Bielefeld does exist for a fact. And we're like, oh yeah, it doesn't exist because people can't actually go there. You can't actually go to Bielefeld. It doesn't actually exist. So it's basically started this whole trend of this country doesn't exist, that country doesn't exist. Once you're there, like anyone that you've ever met from there is actually just an actor. Like this is the first case of this place doesn't exist. And I just thought it's really interesting because it's so funny. You can literally, with that logic, justify that anywhere doesn't exist. Liverpool, when I go up there for uni, that doesn't actually exist. All Scouse people are just paid actors. I just pretend to go over there. I'm confused when I go over there. When I go up to Liverpool, it's actually a different city. And I just think it's so interesting how you can like justify that any place doesn't exist with that logic. And do you know what's really interesting? It's the fact that Bielefeld have sort of heard about this theory, obviously, the conspiracy theory about it, and they've sort of taken it and run with it. For its 800th anniversary, Bielefeld, they actually used the motto, Das gibt es doch gar nicht. As in to be like, that's unbelievable. And yeah, they sort of taken it and run with it. So that's the whole...
Literally, it means it doesn't exist.
Yeah, that literally means it doesn't even exist in the sense of like, oh, that's unbelievable. That's not real. Like, so yeah, that has been my theory as to whether or not Australia exists. Conclusion, Australia does exist. Like, I'm sorry, like, I'm the biggest conspiracy theory person out there, but there's no way that Australia does not exist. If you don't believe me and you've got an alternate opinion, please let me know in the comments. I'm still yet to believe some proof that's out there that Australia does not exist. But I just thought this was just such a funny video to film. If you've got any other ridiculous conspiracy theories for me to cover, I mean, I know I've done like all sorts of conspiracy theories already, but if you've got any requests, please let me know. If it's serious, if it's not serious, I'm gonna get onto that. Yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think, whether you think Australia is real or not. And in the meantime, that's it. I make new videos on a Wednesday at 5. Social media links in the description below. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.